Recording in progress.
Is everybody awake this morning? That's a big yes. That's a big maybe.
I'm awake, Mayor. Well, we can't start without Ben. And Tom, are you ready?
Well, good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. I want to welcome everyone to the Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. Item number one, Commissioner Tony Hart, would you please lead us in the invocation?
Dear Lord, we lift this day and week to you. We are grateful that with your help we can do all things that we are doing. Please go before us and lead us and guide us. Watch over our loved ones and keep them safe. Please let it rain. All these things we ask in your heavenly name. Amen.
Commissioner Luis Lopez, please lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sir. Mr. Dorncap, roll call, please.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Hess.
Here.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda, Mr. Dorncap?
Commissioner, one addition, certifications and appreciation for the World War II vets. I believe that would be underneath the board's report.
Thank you, sir. We'll do that. Any questions on the agenda as posted with the recommended change? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approval of the agenda with that addition.
Second.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes, sir. Section 2, consideration of minutes, regular meeting minutes of May 17, 2022. Commissioners, we've read those minutes. Do we have any questions, any discussion on that? Otherwise, I will entertain the motion.
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of May 17, 2022.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes, sir. Section 3, reading of correspondence, Commissioner committee reports. Commissioner Luis Lopez, would you like to go first?
Thank you, Chairman. A lot of stuff happening in our community and our surrounding communities. This past week, we had the grand opening of a car dealership, which was well attended. We had the Santa Fe Trail Festival downtown in the Los Munos Park, which was well attended. And I'd like to give a thank you and a shout out to Jennifer Oliver and our staff and Council of Governments for having a presence there and for becoming noticeable for the community to recognize the transit that we do have available in Los Angeles County Council of Governments busing program. So there is public transportation here in Los Angeles County, thanks to Council of Governments, and I appreciate them for being there and being highly visible. Also, I had an urban renewal meeting on the 9th, and we have some traction finally. We have 2 new board members going before City Council applicants this evening to be approved. And moving forward with that, we will have 1 vacant seat if they're both appointed this evening. So I look forward to having some new board members with urban renewal, and also at that last meeting, we requested to the mayor, Mayor Rico, for some funding to assist us with receiving additional dollars so we can go after an executive director, which we've been lacking for the last 2 years. With that executive director position, it will give TURA availability to go after and determine blight in the community without us as board members making that determination. Where board members shouldn't be the boots on the ground looking for blight, and a perfect example, Cooper Canyon Hotel. And so hopefully we'll be awarded some funding now in the fall session for the budget for the city of Trinidad, so we can move forward with having an executive director. Other than that, Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Tony has.
June 14th, I found out that I was appointed to the Soil Health Task Force in the state of Colorado. Our first meeting, the soil health policy and programs were introduced and based on the soil health bill that passed in 2021. This program is reaching out for 250 stakeholders to participate in a regenerative ag, low-till, no-till, and carbon sequestration. It will be producer-centered, science-based, action-oriented, and probably most important is voluntary and incentive-based. The research will show the water benefits and the economic benefits to the ranchers and farmers. They're introducing a program called the STAR program. It's a 3-year incentive program, and this program will reward production efforts using the regenerative ag tools that reflect 5 soil health principles. Okay, and on the 15th, I attended the PWP meeting. They approved the signing of the contractor bids for the Pickett-Wire Bucket Diversion Dam Restoration Complex. The project was awarded to Western Civil, and it will also include the irrigation work and a fish and boat design passage. They asked for support. Evergreen had asked to support letter from PWP for the produced water, and it was approved, and we'll move forward with the support letter to protect the watershed. That's its ultimate responsibility, is to protect the watershed. PWP was also able to unveil our new multi-partner collaborative wildlife watershed webcam. And checked it out this morning, and there was a bear sitting there enjoying the scenery. There's also, it's located north of Highway 12. I can't tell you specifics, but it's up there. It also captured a family of dog deer in Turkey. On the 17th of June, Felix and I met with Colonel McLaughlin, who's the director of the Colorado Springs Mountain Carmel. And the conversation revolved around statewide veteran service alignment and a Southeast public-private partnership, improving veterans care here at Trinidad and Mount Carmel, St. Mary Corwin, as to mimic the services provided in Colorado Springs and Mount Carmel. The colonel said that they were considering Pueblo as a new regional hub, and services would be disseminating from Pueblo to the south and east. To 11 counties. Of course, I attended the press conference opening and Santa Fe Trail. That's my report, sir.
Thank you, sir. One of the, just a way of enhancing the conversation that Commissioner Tony has talking about, when Colonel McLaughlin reached out to us. He's been working with our VSO, Veteran Service Officer, here in San Luis County. So any services that they might extend are streamlined directly with the VSO and the veterans group of San Luis County. So certainly they wanted an opinion from individuals throughout the community to see if we would support that initiative. And of course, it's a great initiative. One of the things that is later on you'll hear that's going to be happening here, there's a proposal from the Veterans Administration from Washington, D.C., enclosing several of the Southeast Veterans Service Centers, clinics, and that kind of thing for several counties east of us. So part of the proposal that we would like to see from the VA is what is the alternative and what is the secondary proposition they have on the table to continue to provide services for veterans. You know, San Luis County has quite a few, I think close to 1,500 veterans, and for them to travel either to Pueblo, to Albuquerque, and or Denver, it's troublesome. You know, for a lot of them, they simply need primary care. So we're hoping that at the end of the day, that initiative that we had worked with many years ago with the then Senator Cory Gardner can enhance the services here within the San Luis County. So thank you for that Commissioner Tony has. One of the meetings I attended is the Behavioral Health Administration created by the latest legislation. We met with the CEO of that entity. They're putting the team together, and that BHA is going to be deployed sometime in July. So when that comes in, every commissioner throughout the state of Colorado is going to have an opportunity to meet them. And what are the perspectives? What is their mission and vision, their values, the core perspective of the services they're going to be offering throughout the state? You know, one of the things that I continue to remind them of, there is going to be accessibility via telemedicine. Well, for some of our rural communities, we may not have the capacity for telemedicine, and I described the case of either west or east of Los Angeles County. Somebody needing services, they're going to have to travel to Trinidad, and the understanding from the metro areas is, well, you can use telemedicine from anywhere within the Denver metro area, and that's probably true. In rural Colorado, not so. So they're working through the process, and we'll see what the deployment of those services are going to be. But soon, and I would imagine the next week or so, we're going to be getting updates when Dr. Medlock and her team are going to be ready to deploy some of the services for Colorado and stand up this massive new department for the state of Colorado. And one of the points that we continue to highlight is the perspective post-pandemic, the behavioral impact to K-12 children, because they're seeing so many cases. But again, that information is forthcoming. One of the meetings that Mr. Dorenkamp and I attended was held at the City of Trinidad Chambers, and it was the Roadmap Recovery. In it, it was guided by South Central Council of Governments and hosted by them. Great information. DOLA representative, Warefront representatives, Los Angeles County representatives, the opportunities for broadband, housing, and other challenges that we have within rural Colorado were addressed. But the conversation was around housing, because a lot of the contractors that are building anywhere are tasked with address affordable housing. Well, we discovered that affordable housing perhaps is not as affordable as we think it is. Somebody may mention, Mr. Doran can correct me, but I think they said right now the average per square foot cost is about $150. And the description was that prior to several years back, you can actually build a dwelling with, $70 and $80 square foot, and you got a pretty good building. Well, now it's really increased. And then, so we also spoke about one of the questions that I asked, and I would like to see is a cheat sheet from DOLA and our government agency to tell us, through the past legislation, how many of the legislative bills are going to be impacting builders and developers. And if there's any grant funds to offset some of these expenditures, when are they due, and how do you apply? So we had a very good roundtable discussion, and the recommendation from the group was, let's stop talking and let's begin building. That's kind of the way the conversation went on. And it gives me great honor to speak about the very next segment on this. I had a phone call from Linda Barron. She is, most of you know who she is. She is one of the veterans' biggest supporters and cheerleaders, and one of the persons in the community that anything military, Linda Barron is going to be there. So she called me and wanted the Board of County Commissioners to recognize for the 4th of July parade 3 World War veteran servicemen that we still have alive in Los Angeles County. As we know, World War II from the 1939, and it began to evolve even probably earlier than that, when the world was basically in turmoil. We had 3 survivors here, still living members, and the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County would like to honor them. So we have actually created certificates of appreciation that we're going to be presenting to them next, is the next weekend? Fourth of July parade. So,
On the second.
yeah, and so when the families come, but I wanna just mention their names because what a great honor to serve their nation, still be alive. So we have Mr. Herbert G. Krask, United States World War II veteran. Boyd Tavada, United States World War II veteran. And then we have Mr. Henry Evans, once again, a World War II United States veteran. What an opportunity. If you get an opportunity to join us for that 4th of July celebration, please be there. Your Board of County Commissioners is going to be there. We're going to be presenting this either to them and or to the families, because one of the things that these gentlemen will tell you, that freedom was not free. And they'll tell you the story. And what an amazing opportunity to hear from these individuals, the sacrifices that they saw going into and standing up for the United States of America and the rest of the world. These were actually attracted and many nations to participate, to stand up against the evils of that day. So anyway, I wanted to put that in there, and thank you, Mr. Dorenkamp, for and Executive Assistant Mr. Lucero for putting this together. That is my report, and let's go to the next section.
If I may, Chairman,
Please.
I have one comment on Mr. Talada, Boyd Talada. 2 years ago, he was in my business, and we were speaking about his World War II efforts. And I said, you know, you're the perfect person to be in our parade. It was a week later, the 4th of July parade. He was so appreciative of acknowledging him and his services for our country. He was in tears when we asked him to be in the parade. It's the first time in his life, he told me, that he had ever been acknowledged or appreciated for being a veteran for this country. So I'm very honored.
And one of them, and all three of them, if they show up, are going to be the Grand Marshals of the parade coming up.
So it's just a true blessing we're able to do this.
It is
Thank you, Chair.
great. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hess?
In their presence.
Really is. I'm going to go to section 4, elected officials update. Mr. Mestes, you're in the room. Sir, would you like to...
Good morning. Sure. Our only update really is that elections are underway, and we're getting a good return back. As of this morning, we've got over 1,600 ballots back, and we're still moving forward with that. So that's kind of our update for the week.
1,600, what percentage of the total electorate?
That's about 16%, because we're around the 10,000 mark. So
Okay.
yeah, so we're doing good, and it'll continue as we get closer to election day, which is Tuesday. So people have till Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the 28th to get their ballots in, and they're doing a good job of getting them back. Our drop boxes are both the primary method, especially our drop box here because it's drive-through, and our city drop box at City Hall is doing better this year. It's getting more activity now that the city's fully open again. So we've had good results with that as well, and that's growing. So yeah, good results, and we're moving forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone online, let me call on San Luis County Assessor, Joey Amaro. And by the way, I left my phone, so usually they text me, so I'm not sure if they're available. They're Ms. Amaro, are you there? Let me go to our county, Los Angeles County Treasurer, Ms. Leonetti.
Good morning. I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good morning. Los Angeles County Sheriff, Mr. Navarrete. Anyone from our District Attorney's Office, Mr. Henry Solano? Anyone from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, Mr. Berker? Any representatives from our Los Angeles County Surveyor, Mr. Gary Terry? to section number 5, public comment. Do we have any?
Go to sleep.
Is that air conditioner helping at all? It is. Good.
All right, well, thank you. We don't have anyone sign up. Anyone online that would like to address the board at this time, you have 3 minutes. Public comment. All right. Section 6, presentations. We don't have any presentations, so let's go to section 7, unfinished business, 7A. Consideration of Arca Search quarterly upload service agreement that was tabled on June 6, 2022. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Do we have any ongoing conversation or dialogue on this particular item? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I have no issues, Chairman.
And one question from council. There was one word in there that was,
Edits were made in our communications and
sorry, thank you.
That being said, make the motion to approve the ARPA search agreement.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes. We're going to go to section 9 since we have this public hearing, section 8, scheduled for 10 o'clock. New business, 9A, consideration of 2011 West District RETAC grant. Mr. Dorian Camp.
Commissioners, before you is RETAC grant, and I will defer to Emergency Manager Kim Chavez to give us the details.
Sir.
Right up here.
Morning.
That's perfect timing. Good morning. So the grant before you was submitted by the Trinidad Ambulance on behalf for the RETAC. They're asking for money to purchase, and it's not money from the county, it's money from this RETAC grant to purchase communications equipment, trauma bags, and batteries for their suction units. So this was leftover monies from some RETAC money.
So that's still from the prior fiscal year?
Yes. From 2019, 2020.
Any comments?
As always, I like free money, and I appreciate those that are going after these grants, and Kim and their efforts, and RETAC board, Christie, and administration. Having said that, I have no questions or comments, Chairman. I would make the motion to approve the request for the RETAC grant.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes. 9B, consideration of SC RETAC appointment.
So Commissioners, there is a vacancy with Dan Monahan leaving the ambulance, and I believe we received letters, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, to fill that appointment. Gabe Moreno was the alternate, and now he's seeking to be the RETAC representative.
Any questions, commissioners? Questions? I will entertain a motion.
We move to approve Gabe Moreno's appointment to the Southern Colorado Committee.
Second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes. Item, thank you, Ms. Chavez.
You're welcome.
Item number 9C, consideration of USFS road maintenance agreement. Mr. Dorian Camp.
Commissioner, before you is an agreement with the United States Forest Service to maintain roads. The county road base used to maintain Forest Service roads, mostly up around Spruce Peaks area and Monument North Lakes. Myself and I'll speak for Attorney Nelson, but I went through this. Everything seems to be in order. I like the schedule that the maintenance schedule that they have in this agreement versus the past agreements. The past agreements were the onerous. But these agreements, this schedule on this agreement is much better. So that's the board from the road bridge perspective to approve it.
Council, any comments?
I'm concerned with the agreement.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
We have,
I will entertain a motion.
Move for approval of the USFS road maintenance agreement.
second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes, sir.
After the fact question, Sarah Wolf is the representative that will be discussing this with.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Item 9D, consideration of TNC grant for FBSP, Department of Local Affairs, Mr. Durham County.
Commissioners, as part of our Los Angeles County Fisher's Peak Economic and Recreational Study grant, TNC and TPL, Nature Conservancy and Trust for Public Lands, are supposed to partner $50,000. City of Trinidad, $50,000. Los Angeles County, $50,000. Los Angeles County and Trinidad have both brought forth those funds. This is TNC, representing TNC and TPL with the $50,000 grant. A few things, under the term, and I've emailed TNC's representative, Matt Warhead, asked for some clarification. Under the term, it shows that it expires September 3rd, 2022. While my understanding was, we had past conversations about this, is that that's just the time that the grant used to be in the county's hand, and the county basically cashed the grant, for lack of a better way to describe it. And then the second concern I had was payment amount and schedule. Underneath that, that's on page, I'm not sure if they have a page on here. The payment will be sent by check, to be paid with grantee on or before May 31. And I asked Warhead again about that, and I have not received a response back from them, but I'm not sure, I guess this is the council's question, I'm not sure if that's any reason to not go ahead and execute this. Yeah.
No, I think that was put in just because they anticipated we would have it signed on our side prior to that. They can't issue the check without you having signed off on this, since it's a packet. You could ask them to edit that, and there could be delay.
And on the same token, as Durham County, I was looking at the grant expiration September 30th. For our finance director, those funds are going to be encumbered, I would imagine, in a sense, cash to check, and then the expenditures will happen thereafter. Because when is that project to be completed?
The DOLA deadline was September 30, and grant person, I better describe it, Mr. Colby, I believe, has submitted an extension of 4 years, is that correct?
For September of 2023. And that'll come on July 5th to the board. That'll be presented on July 5th.
Very good. That's an
It's
understanding.
an extension.
Okay, very
Asking
good.
for an extension. Why? Because of the consultants.
Correct. The community engagement is a longer process because our consultants are doing a really good job of getting community engagement, and so it's going to take some time to get that done. So we're going to request an extension from September this year to the end of September 2023.
Is there anybody on the call from the TNC?
No, sir, I don't see it.
Couple comments that I have. It was nice to see them at the Santa Fe Trail Days. They had a presence down there with the Fisher's Peak Park. I think that was the TNC folks down there. You were speaking with them when I was down there. But the other comment I have, this is 50,000 combined between the Nature Conservancy and the Trust for Public Lands, correct? Not 50,000 apiece, which was initially obligated by each of these entities. So just so we're clear that they neglected $25,000 each to this grant application. Hopefully they will come and set up to the table and come up with the other $25,000 apiece from these two groups for that $50,000 match equally in the future, which is available if they choose to do so. The city of Trinidad's had some concerns with some other issues. If they needed money, there's more funding available here through this, if these two entities pony up and do their fair share. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dorenkamp, on section H of that particular grant, when I was reading these, are those, the population number 14,493, is that based on 2026, is that?
What was it, the number again?
Section, let me see here, it's on section CH.
This is the grant
Yes.
itself?
The grant itself, it says current population, the most recent, let me see here, state demographics, current recent conservation trust fund distribution estimate, okay, so those are dollars, but it says current population.
That came off of the state auditor's office when I filled out this application.
Okay, and so the 5-year population projection, they're also telling us that they're estimating that our population is going to decrease. Well,
That's correct, Commissioner. Los Angeles County's pattern over the last decade has been for the population, a decrease in population.
okay. No other questions on that, Commissioners? Any other questions? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the grant application TNC FPSP application grant.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. 90, consideration of a CGRS original reimbursement application preparation proposal. Mr. Dorrington.
Commissioner, before you use for your considerations an agreement with CGRS, they're the firm that helped us with our fuel leak out at the fairgrounds. The state of Colorado has a fund that helps with these types of cleanups, for lack of a better way of describing it. And I'd like the board to consider engaging CGRS to help us through that process. It's a long process at the state level, and these folks are extremely familiar with it. And their fee, I believe, is $850 to help us try to cover some of the close to $20-some thousand the county spent on that fuel mitigation remediation.
So a couple of questions on that, Mr. Dorrington. Los Angeles County, the $10,000 deductible that we have, is that through CTSI? Would that be, or?
We can see if this type of incident is covered by our insurance, but the $10,000 is a maybe or maybe not, depending on what kind of paperwork that the state is going to require us to have had in the past. So frankly, my humble opinion is we should be pretty good, because we submit our results on those tanks and fuel lines, and very few lines we brought them above ground, so we'll be able to detect the leak visibly rather than having a contractor come in and test, pressurize those underground fuel lines. So above ground now, so we can see it visually if we have any issues. But we may end up have to pay $10,000 towards this. My hope is, and my belief is that it will not be deemed, for lack of a better way of describing it, because we have done our due diligence when it comes to keeping up to all the state standards.
So there's an opportunity to receive 100% or as close as we can of the total expenditure of the cost of the project.
Close has been my experience with dealing with the state in this fund. We won't get 100%, so we'll make sure we understand.
Sure.
a fuel leak, we need to do what we did. We did exactly what we needed to do for
So the project's complete.
the project is complete, except for seeking this reimbursement.
Commissioner?
So this pipeline lays on top of the ground, is it barricaded?
It's actually suspended, but yes, it's barricaded. There are concrete barriers protecting.
As always, I appreciate grants and free money to assist the county, so thank you, staff, and Mr. Hurricane for going after this reimbursement. I appreciate it. And as always, our Road and Bridge Department and Mr. Hurricane does a great job taking care of Los Angeles County and all of our obligations. So with that said, I make the motion to approve the CGRS, as long as legal counsel is okay. I have no concerns. No concerns with legal counsel. I will make the motion to approve the CGRS reimbursement application.
Second motion?
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. Item 9, consideration of Armstrong Consultants Professional Service Agreement for development of conceptual Aristos Airport Industrial Park. Mr. Dorica.
Commissioner, before you for your consideration is exactly as you described, Commissioner. Conceptual plans for industrial park out at the Paris Airport with Armstrong Consultants. They're our consulting firm that's assisting us with all the improvements out at the airport right now, the pavings, the taxiways that will be coming up, I think, in 2023, engineering stuff. So my simple way of thinking, it just makes sense to try and engage, and the board approves this engagement. Armstrong helps develop an conceptual industrial park plan out there at the airport. We sought and received $25,000 worth of DOLA EIAF. It's grade A0197. I think $25,000. Finance Director Christie Colby budgeted $25,000 county funds as a match for a total of $50,000 towards this project.
And you came under budget.
And we came in under budget by $1,963. So,
As Commissioner Luis Lopez, very much appreciated.
I'm glad to see this project moving forward, and then move to approve the Armstrong Consulting Professional Services Agreement. Conceptual Aristos Airport Industrial.
Second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes, and thank you once again. And I keep us focused. This has a ton of opportunity for our community to understand that there could be an industrial complex out at the airport. Well, that would be a great opportunity for the county, for the city, and so
I think it's the first step of many steps to come.
amen to that. And so it's a yes for me as well. So thank you. 9G, consideration of liquor license renewal for Picker Wire Lodge and Store. Mr. Durankamp and our council.
On for the council.
Please.
We're trying to find it too.
It may be page 166 if you're using the building.
Please.
Yeah, good timing for the hearing. Water. Can I bump it down water? So you have to, getting this is still there.
Okay, Commissioners, this application essentially is complete. I do have
so the actual check received was the 468, not the 486?
Correct.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mestis, will that be an issue at the state level? You haven't submitted that to the state yet?
Yeah, we haven't submitted that, so what I'll do is contact them and have them bring either a correct check or a check for the balance.
Okay.
And then we'll submit it. We don't submit that till
approval here.
till county approval, so we've got a little time to correct that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Having had some of those moments of dyslexic moments, I'll vote to approve liquor license renewal.
Condition to the $20.
Conditional on the $20 discrepancy.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess, Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes.
And on a side note, they have some really good food up there.
9H, consideration of OBCC number 6998, purgatory valley construction for $682.72. Mr. Mestas.
Good morning again,
Good morning,
everybody. Yeah, this one is just an item that PVC renewed in error. It's an item that they don't use, but they have several renewals. They got mixed in and they renewed it, but it's one that they did not renew. So just a pretty simple issue.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 608 to PVC for $682.72.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. 9I, consideration of reduced water letter to Colorado Oil and Gas Commission. Mr. Dornica.
Commissioner, before you for your consideration is a letter of support to allow Los Angeles County and our operators, our oil and gas operators, to beneficially use the produced water. And when I say produced water, I will qualify it with quote-unquote clean produced water that adheres to all the states and federal mandates and guidelines and rules and regulations. In essence, right now, the produced water, regardless of its quality, is not allowed to be used in certain fashions within the county. So we're going to, this letter asks that COGCC, Colorado Oil and Gas Commission, offer Evergreen Natural Resources variance on that produced water to allow us to use it in dust mitigation types of uses, firefighting, watering of livestock and all
Not convoluting the dialogue, the conversation. The firefighting pond water, later on is going to be a discussion with all fire chiefs based upon the legislation that was approved on the last legislative session as well. So we will follow up on that. But this is totally for, if you will, county use.
Well, county and private use too. Or some of the subcontractors will also do that in some of our county rules, like we've done in the past. Since Senate Bill was in 1981, it was no longer permissible to use it that way. On the pond water, I'm not sure that through that legislation that any of these ponds are qualified, because if I recall, again, I'm just stressing if I recall correctly, ponds on the pond water legislation had to be in place prior to 1972, is what states now. Single rain, and none of these ponds were there at that time. Right. So these are all post 1972. That's why we're also seeking various to allow this clean water, those ponds that have clean water, to be used in firefighting efforts also.
We want to thank you for putting that on the very last paragraph. The San Luis County Board of County Commissioners does not advocate the unsafe clean produced water be used in the aforementioned manner. So that clarifies what we're requesting. And so I think the last paragraph reminds them that our constituents with the county have used that water for the benefit of all citizens in this county. So thank you. Commissioners, any other questions?
Only comment that I may have or question is, do we want to keep this request solely to Evergreen Natural Resources or to all gas producers in the county? Any thoughts on that?
The reason I address it to Evergreen Natural Resources, they are the one in Evergreen's water management plan. They state that we cannot use this water without, in this fashion, without receiving a variance. That the county then would offer a letter asking, requesting for that variance. And that's why it's addressed to Evergreen. But I'm sure entertaining Horace or any of the other operators who want to use this water in the same fashion. I would sure ask the board,
The request would have to come from.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And their request would have to meet all of the standards that are also.
Yeah, Commissioner, none of us are an advocate of polluting our precious waters with dirty water. To be honest, we want clean produced water.
Yeah, and the formula that CDPHE and CBCC are using, they're going to be holding Evergreen Natural Resources to a standard, and that's what we're requesting, but let us use the water on the county roads, that's mitigation and so on. So any other questions? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion.
To approve the produced water line of Colorado oil and gas station.
Second motion.
Commissioner Reese Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. Consideration of better administration opinion letters of support to the Colorado federal delegation. Mr. Governor.
Commissioner, before you for your consideration is VA clinic letters of support to the federal delegation to encourage the Department of Defense to not close clinics in Lamar, Lahana, Salina, and Burlington. Our veterans, and I don't have to say this as well, as our veterans have served this country notably and honorably. Closing these clinics, it's the military stand that they could use, the veterans could use, what they call community care, in other words, private care, hospitals, other clinics within those communities. But as indicated in the letter, those clinics and hospitals are having issues with hiring enough nurses and doctors and labor to keep those facilities at full capacity, to be able to serve the people, patients at full capacity. And so our mindset, I should speak for the board, my mindset is that we're going to try to keep these clinics open since they are serving a very vulnerable population and populations that serve this country.
Thank you, sir. By way of information, the Southeast Group of County Commissioners that are impacted have requested and reached out to the entire county commissioner membership for letters of support. And this is the result of why we're joining in the effort. So these letters are addressed to Representative Ken Buck, to United States Senator Michael Bennett, and United States Senator John Hickenlooper. To keep in mind this whole concept and process, we, the commissioners have begun this grassroots effort, have had conversations with the veteran service officers. So they too are very own in San Luis County. We had a conversation with them through that entity and organization. They do as well are going to be sending letters of support. If they're going to close these facilities, what is option B for our veterans? That's basically what we're asking the federal delegation. So thank you for that, Commissioners. Any other questions?
Thank you for bringing this forward for our board to have a discussion on this. I just want to publicly say I'm embarrassed that they're even thinking of closing these facilities for our veterans. Very shameful that they're even considering doing so, putting us in positions where we have to advocate for our veterans of our communities. Shame on them for doing so, regardless of what the issues may be. They should be fighting to keep these facilities open, just like we're advocating today. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hess?
I agree with Reese's comments.
Okay. you. No other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the Veteran Association Clinic letter supports federal delegation.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. Item 9K, consideration of postage machine leads. Mr. Dorncap.
Commissioners, I am going to defer to County Administrative Assistant Quality Services on their chasing this down.
We started posting machine for 6 months. Our lease is coming up, I believe, in the next month or so. But it is from Roland's and Indigo's. Not quite comparable machines. I prefer to stay with the Indigo's that we currently have. Not having trouble with them. Usually they're very responsive. The other bid that I got was much less of a machine than we have.
So price differential and cost, Director Corley, we're not breaking that, please.
Because I think when we presented for Gobens was a smaller screen for us, and we liked the larger screen, so it wasn't exactly what we had requested. You know, so it wasn't the same machine we had requested. So I think that's what she's asking us to Pitney Bowes or upgrade Pitney Bowes.
The Commissioners, the Pitney Bowes has done the work that is required. It's amazing how much mail goes through that machine. Knows the bit of it, knows running, it works, versus an unknown Gobens that appears not to be quite as structurally sound machine compared to the picture models and what they have to offer.
I also think they added a maintenance agreement to where they come in with service it for the next 5 years. Because before, we didn't have that.
So the monthly payment would be $299, 60-month term.
Yes.
Early in home.
Yeah, I think the previous one was 270.
But $18 a month more.
Well, that's not bad compared to the rate of inflation right now.
Any questions? We will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the postage machine lease with Pitney Bowes because our staff prefers it.
Second motion.
The contract expired.
Commissioner Luis Lopez? Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
The perks, small perks they get.
Item 9L, consideration of copy machine lease for the other office.
I have some discuss this very briefly with Paul. Get ready for our agenda hearings and maybe bring things up after the hearing.
That sounds good.
You want to make a motion to table?
Yes.
Make a motion to table the copy machines for admin office.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes, and at this time, I'm going to call a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second. I make the motion.
Yes.
Second.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
We will move on.
Open and ask, just say yes.
We'll resume in 5 minutes.
That's what we did at the CCI. When they called the phone.
No. So, yeah, good. Was that?
The posting machine, yeah, and it was unlocked.
that's not maybe. Seems worth it. I mean, what do you want? You avoid the traffic, you get better views.
You can say business, that's why I'm not down there.
It's kind of like just put stuff on the ground.
I've seen police doing one side, I'm assuming that's the thing for us, I love
No, we're going to do it all at once. Well, commissioners, motion to resume the Board of County Commissioners meeting and go into public hearings. It is now, are you gonna go back?
Sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Pistoles?
Yes.
Commissioner Pistoles?
Yes.
It is 10:01, and now back to the Board of County Commissioners. We're going to enter into this public hearing that was scheduled at 10 o'clock a.m. at this point in time. The public hearing is going to be addressing at this particular point in time the first one, International Building Code Amendment and so on. And the conversation is going to be relevant simply and only to that. So I'm going to read the items that we're going to be speaking of, and then we're going to be calling on Mr. Robert Lucero to come and give us testimony, and then after that, we're going to be calling on anyone from the audience and or online to provide testimony either for or against this proposed changes. So item 8.1, Los Angeles County is seeking to adopt the following. Item A, the 2018 edition of the International Building Code, parentheses, IBC, including amendments by the International Code Council, ICC, to date, with appendices C and J. B, the 2018 of the International Residential Code, IRC, including amendments by the ICC to date with appendices E, F, G, M, Q, R, S, and U, excluding the required sprinkler system in R313 and P2904. C, the 2018 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, including amendments by the ICC to date. The 2018 edition of the International Mechanical Code, IMC, including amendments by the ICC to date with Appendix A. E, the 2018 edition of the International Existing Building Code, IEBC, including amendments by the ICC to date with Resource A. F, the 1997 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings, UCA DB. G, the following sections of the International Building Code, 2018 edition, IBC are hereby A, revised A, 2.1 amended IBC 101.1 title as follows. To insert Los Angeles County, Colorado, where indicated. B, 2.2 amended IBC and 202 definitions to add a new definition to read as follows. Intermodal shipping container, a 6-sided steel unit originally constructed as a general cargo container used for the transport of goods and materials. C, 2.3 amend IBC to add the new sections 3114 intermodal shipping containers. At this point in time, we're going to call Mr. Robert Lucero, and he's going to be sworn in. Council?
Will the chairman of the committee portray the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Robert Lucero. The 2018 code that's being proposed kind of was been worked on for probably a year or so. Mr. Dorncap kind of initiated it. We are currently on the 2009 code, which is kind of outdated. The city of Trinidad has already adopted the 2018 code. I think they did that a couple of years ago. There are some changes from the 2009, mainly in the energy sector of it, which is the insulation part of the code. And as you can see on the, if I ask you for the 1997 uniform code for the abatement of dangerous buildings, that's in there because when they went to the international code, they never took that one, they left it as a uniform building code. So it's not updated, and we still use that code for the abatement of dangerous buildings. One of the main amendments in this, as you can see, is for the storage containers. These are containers you see coming overseas. People are starting to build houses with them. Okay. The amendments that you have there, because there's a 2021 code book now. This was in the 2021, so we took it out of the 2021 and basically put this in as an amendment to the 2018. Keep in mind that all of this, we did build it and got a consultant kind of to help us along with this stuff. The main reason, basically, on the storage container, they were not made to live in. But people, what they're doing is they're kind of stacking them on each other and making houses out of them. So, to meet the international residential code, you have to put windows in, doors. When you start cutting holes in the containers, you kind of compromise the integrity of the building as is. So by putting this in, it requires the property owner to basically get a structural engineer to come in and design it based on our code. That way, if when they're cutting windows, they can shore it up. It's the same as you would on a stick-built house. And put doors in where required. If there's a second story on it, they have to have egress windows. That's the main purpose of the amendment to the storage container part of it.
So, Mr. Lucero, on these containers, as you're saying, the more cavities they cut within them, it's going to compromise the solidity. When somebody pulls a permit to build those as a dwelling, as a residence, the county will have the authority to, through this particular code, to approve or deny, depending on, if they want 10 windows on one and so many doors, then basically the integrity of and the strength of the building pretty much disappears.
Yes, that's why we will require them to get a structural engineer to go through it to make sure they still meet our code and that the building is structurally sound. So it is.
How many communities have adopted these container regulations or counties that you're aware of?
Currently, I'm not sure. I went to a meeting in Pueblo. A lot of counties up north have. Basically, reasoning, they cited that reasoning is a lot of these containers that are coming over are not going back. They come from China, but they're not going back because they're not gonna send them back empty. So it's cheaper to leave them here, so, you used to be able to buy it very cheap. I know, one time they were like $2,000 for a storage container. I think they've gone up in price because people are starting to use it for that.
Commissioner, there is a demand for these housings within this right or wrong or different. I'm going to say that that's one of the reasons it's included in the 2021 code, is because there is a demand for these. And also, when you stretch, it also opens up what I would say some affordable housing over tiny homes. Is tiny homes addressed in the 2018?
It is addressed in the 2018 code.
Not everybody can afford to build a stick house at $150, $200 a square foot right now. So, most of it is being built with alternative housing, tiny homes, engineered, shipping containers, etc.
Just want to hear a couple of questions. The gauge of the steel that these containers are made of may differ from one container to the next. I really don't know. So, absent having access to so many structural engineers within the San Luis County, what happens when a homeowner actually says, well, look, here is what I'm going to do? Do those blueprints and all these, do they need to have that structural engineer stamp, otherwise it's a no-go?
Yeah, you have to have a structural engineer stamp on it before we issue a permit. And there are structural engineers, there used to be one in Trinidad, he's with the city of Trinidad now. But there's a couple over in Metro that are licensed in Colorado, there's a few in Walsenburg, there's a few in, quite a few in Pueblo. So it really hasn't had problems getting structural engineer, you know, because basically all they need to tell them is what code we're on, and they know how to design it based on the code.
And these particular regulations will be addressing the foundation requirements as well?
Yes. It's all that was to be designed based on the International Residential Code.
There was legislation that passed also addressing tiny homes and communities. I know that with all of the legislation that was just enacted in 2022, I would imagine that these regulations also are going to be perhaps changing as the legislation is signed and approved by the government.
Yeah, you know, there's a 2021 out. They are already working on a 2024. So it's always, you know, the tiny homes. I know they were looking at when there's a single wide or double wide put in, they have to. The state comes in and puts an emblem on it. It's a copper emblem. It's through the manufactured housing. They put the sticker on there, and they were looking at requiring the tiny homes to be inspected and approved by those inspectors. Once it's set, I don't know if the state, I don't know where it's at. I'm not even sure there was a Senate bill proposing that. I know there was something out.
So for purpose of public safety, of course, in the county, do not want anyone leaving. So once, if approved today, anybody that has had a shipping container as a home is not going to be subject to these changes, correct?
That is correct, and I'm not aware of any that are basically legally out there I'm sure they're living in them, but I'm not aware of any, right offhand. Usually you hear about it when there's trouble.
Commissioner, our current code, 2009 code, does not address shipping containers as a place that a family or person can live. So what's happening, illegally.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I'll hold my comments until the hearing, then the hearing for opposition on this or against, and then I'll make my closing comments.
Very good. Any other information, Mr. Rosero?
Nothing at this time.
Let me go ahead and call on anyone from the audience, either online or here in the room, that would like to make a comment on this particular proposal. Yes, sir. Please come up to get sworn in.
I knew nothing about this, but I'm just kind of curious, you know. Sorry.
Do you solemnly swear on the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record.
H.L. Coleman. I just, you know, there's a lot of governmental control. It seems like there's not a whole lot of research done on this. You know, like you pointed out, the thickness, the gauge, so forth and so on. I think that there needs to be more research into this. What's next? Are we going to have to have a certificate of occupancy for a TV? You know, at what point, especially in the inflation we're in, are we going to draw a line and just kind of step back and start looking at stuff and letting people live? Just curious. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Anyone online that would like to propose any recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners? Anyone in the audience? Hearing none.
Chairman, thank you. Mr. Lucero, thank you for your hard work and staff and for preparing this update for our code additions for our IBC codes. I am a big advocate against government overreach, and that was truly displayed this year during our legislation for government overreach to counties, state, communities, and residents and taxpayers. However, in this particular issue here, I have an issue with public safety, and I appreciate Mr. Goldman's comments and understand completely where does it end, where does it stop. However, second generation owner of said container or any of these building codes that we're adopting would be my concern. Not so much the primary builder of the facility, whether they're entering a risk of their own residence. This is called shipping containers. But it's the second owner of that facility that hasn't had the opportunity for this to be up to code, and they purchase it without the safety measures put in place, and endangering them in possibly a collapse or a structure failure. With that being said, I don't have an issue moving forward with the public safety aspect of this 2018 IBC code, along with the shipping container addition structural for goods and materials added to this adoption at the county level. So again, on the side of public safety for future generations residing in these structures, that is why I'm moving forward with this thing.
So, Commissioner Hess?
After witnessing last year's legislative session and everyone that makes the county out not to fall into the overreach that our government is happening in this instance of this investigation.
Let me provide a couple of comments as well. When we met with the city of Trinidad and all the other representatives, a couple of ideas were discussed. And yes, one of the things that we're having so many problems with is that city tells you to do this. When you go to the next county in our city, oh, well, that doesn't apply to them. So we are so, the uniformity is not there. So one of the things that was considered also looking at, going back to Mr. H.L. Bowman's comments, is when does government step aside and when does common sense get in? You know, my concern with all of the wind issues that we have had, one of the things that I wouldn't want to find out is a family that used one of these containers as a residence and they're harmed. At the county level, I concur with my fellow commissioners. The last thing we want to do is have government overreach. That's one thing that we've been fighting for at the state level, at the national level. This Board of County Commissioners has a strong voice and will continue to use it. But the safety and the welfare of our community, that's why my question was, do we have access to a structural engineer? If I had plans that perhaps would meet the safeties and the standards of housing, I don't know much about construction, but if I was to put one of these things, if the wind or something was to knock it over, my family's going to get harmed. What liability is there to our county? That's also, we've got to be, this is a very, very tough decision. As the Board of County Commissioners, what liability comes to us because we neglected to advise and or to guide the construction and or erection of this type of housing? So this is a tough issue, but I do agree with the safety of families. We've got to be able to work with families, and housing right now, affordable housing is simply non-existent. This is one of those other, you go on YouTube and you see people building these types of homes because the building materials are just, A, the supply chain is not having accessible, and or B, makes it really challenging to afford it. Tough issue in front of us, Commissioner. So those are my comments. Since we didn't have anybody else online and in the room, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the amendments to the 2018 IBC County IBC 2018 IRC, 2018 IECC, and the 2018 IMC, and the 1997 Income Home for Vacant Dangerous Buildings.
Second motion. Commissioner Hess? Yes. Commissioner Reeser?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes, for all the reasons stated above.
Commissioner Bernard?
Yes, please read the resolutions in Brevard County.
Resolution of the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, adopting amendments to the Los Angeles County Building Code, including 2018 International Building Code, IBC improvement, 2018 International Residential Code, IRC improvement, 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, IECC improvement, and the 2018 International Mechanical Code, IMC improvement. The 1997 Uniform Code for the Vacant Buildings Resolution 22-04. Whereas Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners during the Board Ingram is authorized to adopt a building code pursuant to CRS 30-28-101, Ran 1 Ingram, and whereas the Board is authorized to amend the building code entitled pursuant to CRS 30-28-204, and whereas the Board adopted amendments to its International Building Code on March 5, 2013, by adopting and incorporating the 2009 International Building Code, and whereas Los Angeles County Planning Commission on June 6, 2022 issued a certificate of recommendation for adoption of the amendments to the code after holding a public hearing, whereas public hearing is held on this day before the Board of County Commissioners to take public comment prior to the amendments. Prior to the amendments of the Los Angeles County Building Code proposed to include the 2018 Building Code, IBC, and the 2018 International Residential Code, IRC, and 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, and 2018 International Resisting Building Code, IEBC, and the 2018 International Mechanical Code, the 1997 Uniform Code for the Vacant Dangerous Buildings, UCA-DB input. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, that one public hearing has been published, advertised, public notice has been published, advising the public of the proposed adoption of the new building codes at least 14 days prior to the public hearing as required by law. 2, the proposed enactment of the Los Angeles County Building Code includes a 2018 edition of the International Building Code and IBC including amendments by the International Code Council and ICC in today with appendices C and J and B 2018 edition of the International Residential Code and IRC including amendments by the ICC today with appendices E, F, G, N, Q, R, S, and U, excluding the required sprinkler systems in R 313 and P 2904, and C, the 2018 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code and IECC including amendments to the ICC today, and D, 2018 edition of the International Chemical Code and IMC including amendments by the ICC today with Appendix A and E, the 2018 edition of the International Existing Building Code and IEBC including amendments by the ICC today with Resource A, F, the 1997 Uniform Code for the Basement Dangerous Buildings Agreement, UCADB and Resolution number 12-033, approved by the Board of County Commissioners August 2, 2012, defining permit expirations is hereby affirmed. For the construction cost schedule approved by the Board of County Commissioners August 7, 2012, and Resolution 12-034 is hereby affirmed. Any construction cost schedules contained in the Los Angeles County Building Code are hereby amended to conform with Resolution 12-034. 5, the fee schedule approved by the Board of County Commissioners on August 7, 2012, Resolution 12-035 is hereby reaffirmed, and any fee schedules contained in the Los Angeles County Building Codes, including Appendix L of the IRC and Appendix B of the IMC, are hereby amended to conform with Resolution 12-035. 6, Resolution 12-052 approved by the Board of County Commissioners on December 28, 2012, amending Los Angeles County Building Codes concerning the Board of Appeals is hereby reaffirmed, and any provisions contained in the Los Angeles County Building Codes, including Appendix B of the IBC and 109 of the IMC, are hereby amended to conform with Resolution number 12-052. All appointments of the Board of Appeals shall remain in effect pursuant to resolutions number 12-041 and 12-053. 7, the proposed amendment of the Los Angeles County Building Codes is in the best interest of and in accordance with public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the citizens of Los Angeles County, and further, that says new proposed Los Angeles County Building Codes accord with the safety, protection, and sanitation of resident and future dwellings and structures in Los Angeles County. 8, it is determined by the Board of County Commissioners that adoption of the aforementioned codes will be in the best interest of the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the citizens of Los Angeles County. And the proposed amendments to the Los Angeles County Building Code be adopted before being made applicable to the future direction, construction, reconstruction, alteration, and remodeling of all dwellings, buildings, and structures in the entire unincorporated area of Los Angeles County, together with plumbing, mechanical, electrical installations therein or connections therein. On motion made and duly seconded, and after the conduction of the public hearing as required by law, this resolution is adopted as though previously this resolution in aforementioned 2018 International Building Code (IBC) with appendices, 2018 International Residential Code (IRC) imprint with appendices, 2018 International Energy Conservation Code IECC imprint, the 1997 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings UCADB imprint, and the 2018 International Chemical Code IMC imprint, with amendments to date are hereby adopted and shall be applicable to the entire unincorporated area of Los Angeles County for all applications for building permits filed with the Office of the Los Angeles County Building Inspector. It shall become effective June 21, 2022. On motion made and seconded, this resolution was adopted this 21st day of June 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners, Los Angeles County, Colorado, followed by your signature.
Any questions on the resolution, Commissioners? Otherwise,
approve resolution 22-024.
Second motion. Commissioner Hess? Yes. Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Item 8, section 2 of item 8, we're going to go special event permit applications for Honey and Nerves LLC. So I'm going to call Mr. Teddy Wilson and a representative from Honey and Nerves.
Do you affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name for the record.
Teddy Wilson.
So, Mr. Wilson, you're applying for a special event permit application for the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds
Yes.
for July 2nd.
Yes.
Please explain to us the purpose and so on.
We were looking for a venue big enough to have, there's nothing in town actually that hold. We were looking at like 100 people, and that was the, we were told to try that place, so we tried that for 100 people in it for a little cornhole tournament and a get together. So,
This is, in a sense, a private
yes,
gallery.
yes.
Let me turn, the application is for a off-premise liquor license. Do you currently hold another liquor license? I know you're affiliated with the
Yeah.
restaurant downtown.
Yeah, I have the one for the city.
Are you the owner of that license?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mestis, well, after calling over questions in a few, see if there's any conflict with that. The reason you're doing this is for a tournament of some sort of?
Yeah.
And the lease, you've already secured that with the county, it looks like, right? I have no question.
And is there a admission you have to be charged for this?
Yeah. The other thing is we were wanting to know if we could extend the hours a little bit. Because we were told that you shut pretty early.
Well, I think that would be a different agenda item since it's not on the hearing, right? But this is a license.
So this is a special event permit for the sale of liquor at the event. It's not for the parameters of the lease. That would have to be a separate request because it's, I believe the lease goes through your policy. So that's not part of today's hearing. For today's hearing, under the statute, for the application you have, there are certain things that have to be in there. Information regarding insurance, information regarding alcohol security, the rental agreement, the diagram of the premises, all of those are present in this application. There is one other requirement under the statute, but it does present a problem in this application specifically for an application with 45.5.102 to qualify for the special permit. It has to be a entity that is not for pecuniary gain, so in some sense, a non-profit entity. The information provided with the application didn't include anything regarding how this entity was formed, but upon the request of the court and the order, the applicant did provide additional information, which was their operating agreement. I don't have anything that would reflect that they're a non-profit, and that would not be the standard of this statute.
So, Mr. Wilson, I think that the easiest way to verify is your organization for profit or not-profit?
It is for profit.
For profit. And based on the statutory language, for us to extend the license is to be extended to a non-profit entity.
Because I thought we had covered that ground when we were doing that. When we were putting it all in, it's been, from the beginning that we were not a nonprofit.
Council.
Once the application has been filed, it has to come through before this court for approval of your line. So that was the concern addressed at the beginning. The only way not to bring it to the board is if you were to withdraw that application. So because you have the application, they have to hear it. That is something
let me ask a 30,000-foot question, and this is going to probably indicate a little bit about legal. Is there a nonprofit entity, and I know we're just a few days away from that particular activity, and there is also, I believe, a timeline by which the application has to be filed, 30 days if I'm correct, so we might not meet that, but I think that, and I tell you one thing, I've read this inside out, went and read statute, and it's coming back with the same concept that our legal counsel has mentioned. So it is the nonprofit status that creates an impediment, personally, for me to operate this license.
Okay. So how do I go about getting a for-profit to want to make it into a restaurant over there?
I'm going to step on my coattails here. As a liquor licensee, with my business as well, I've been well versed in over the years with liquor licenses and so forth. All the way back when I had a restaurant back in 1991. We did not have a liquor license there. However, we did hold events where patrons could bring their own alcohol beverages into that facility where we did not make any profit on it or sell it whatsoever. So that's an option for you. I would assume that if you have this event and you just cannot sell the product, you would not be in violation of any type of legalities. You just can't sell it. It could be a gift, it could be available, but the liquor license, and correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, you would not need a liquor license to have alcohol on premises. We do not have an alcohol issue in our guidelines at the county fairgrounds for folks to bring their own when you're renting one of the facilities. There's not a parameter on that.
Okay.
However, to retail it, you would have to be a nonprofit. It appears by statute. So if you weren't aware of that, when they give me a speeding ticket, it's not the cop's fault, it's my fault for not knowing.
Counsel?
So, can't sell alcohol. So how do I go about extending the hours?
You have to meet with Ms. Grandy, that deals with the lease itself,
Okay.
and whether or not, what she's allowed to do within the parameters of the policy, and you also want to discuss the alcohol. If you're not getting approved for this permit, we need to discuss the account policy and this alcohol.
The other thing we talked about was security. We were going to bring our own security in, and they said we have to use the sheriff's department. Is there an issue that I can bring my own security in and not have to use the sheriff's department?
I'm telling you, I don't know what our fairground policy says as far as security, so we need to confirm.
I think you could, I have that discussion with Mr. Bowman and Mr. Barham
Okay.
to resolve that set up if you're in a session. And then you guys can figure it out that way. Since we don't have policy in front of us.
Okay.
But I do have a couple of questions for Mr. Mestis, if you would like to go, as far as that's okay with you, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the permit and the refrigerated testimony you're about to give will be the true whole truth and nothing but the truth. Please state your name for the record.
Joseph Mestis.
Thank you, Mr. Mestis. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
The only question that I have concern with, and the law may have changed, so I may not be up to date on this. Liquor licenses in the state of Colorado are allowed to individuals, only one license per person, not per entity. My question to you is if that's changed, and if it hasn't changed, is, say, myself as a liquor licensee, allowed to obtain a special events permit off premise of my license, where I'm licensed to do business at that time, such as in this case, Mr. Wilson? Is that not permissible?
There's new laws, but the special event didn't modify those, so I really have to do some more digging in as for that. I don't have any digging as for that.
And I think that's why, Counselor and the board, the reason is for special events is to be a nonprofit. So
Yeah.
that is a parameter that, so myself, and I may be licensee holder, Mr. Wilson in this case, can have a nonprofit apply for one, even though you might be a member of that nonprofit or a board member of that organization. And it wouldn't inhibit you from moving forward. That's just my thoughts on it.
My thought was, I wondered if he could maybe do a cover charge and not sell the liquor with it.
You get into a gray area there as far as donation. I would recommend it, because then you're actually having possible liability for underage or lawsuits or inhibiting minors. I wouldn't recommend that, but that's not a question. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Anyone in the room that would like to provide additional testimony and online? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Unfortunately, I will make the motion to deny the application for any nerves due to the fact that it is not a nonprofit organization. And by statute, we must follow suit.
Second motion. Commissioner Hess? Yes. Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Priest?
Yes. Section 3 of Section 8, special event permit application from the San Luis County Republican Party. Let me call on Mr. H.L. Bowman to come to the podium this morning.
Good morning.
You heard the bill, the previous testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
HL.
Mr. Bowman, we have an application in front of us for an event that is going to be held by the San Luis County Republican Party. Can you walk us through the process? This is going to be on July, you have the date on the 9th, yes. So please explain to us the purpose of this request, sir.
So this is a political event. It's a speaking event. Basically what it is candidates that will come into Los Angeles County. And we are neither nor a non-profit or profit organization or a political organization. So basically what will happen is our dinners are covered through the contribution of a ticket. So the ticket, even though it's a ticket, it's still considered a contribution. Everybody that buys a ticket has to fill out forms that goes to Tracer. And it still is a private event based on the aspect of I'm going through every person that's coming to this and looking on the GOP website, see where they stand, looking at their stuff, so we can actually deny someone from coming in if, say they're part of Antifa or one of these organized crime groups that, try to prevent stuff like this from happening. So even though it's a public event, it's not a public event because we can deny anybody from coming in there.
So your application is being made under the political
Correct.
Extension of the statute language. Council?
Commissioners, this is the other application for a special event permits to be seen, correct, we talked about the last application applied, insurance, information on alcohol security, rental agreement, diagram practices, and non-profit holding. Those all meet in this application under 24.5.2.1.5. Political is listed in the definition as what we consider a nonprofit under the specific permit under the statute, so this qualify all requirements for the application.
Thank you, Council. Commissioners?
After hearing that, I have no questions. You've answered them all.
Good job. And then I'll jump through all the hoops. And Brandon, thank you for putting up with this guy when he was in your office and handling you pretty hard. With that said, yes.
Yes. Let me call on anyone in the room or thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, guys.
Let me call on anyone in the room and or online to provide testimony for or against this application that is in front of us, special permit liquor license from the San Luis County Department Party. Hearing none, I yield the floor back to you, Commissioner Cummings.
And again, Randy, thank you for the Agreements project. I mean, this has been a tough one, you know. And I really appreciate you hanging in there with us. With that, I'd like to approve the application for Los Angeles County Development Authority. Make a motion.
Second motion.
Commissioner Reese Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Peters Lopez?
Yes. Thank you. We're going to go to section 10, financial matters.
Commissioner Peters?
You can put down the table now.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I will need a motion to take off the table item health consideration of coffee machine lease for right
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Peters Lopez?
Yes, so that's item 9L. Council.
Switching court mode there for a second. Commissioner, the administrative office has a copy machine that's up, the lease is up. Ms. Luzar did ask for bids on that. Bids were received, I'm actually going to defer to Ms. Coakley. If you look at that first page under this subsection, there's a lot of math that she can on there that she can spend.
Yes, please, we appreciate
So
that.
then page 215, if you guys are looking up there. So if you scroll down, Ms. Lucero went through, so when they submitted the lease, Logan's was $151.89 per month. Tesco's was $110 per month. So I'm saying, but when you go back and you look at what they're gonna charge us per copy, per month or per year, you'll see that Logan's is less. People are cautious, Logan's per annually, this is an estimate, if we look at that, is $625.80 per year, plus the lease of $151 is $777. Tascosa per copy, because they charge us per copy, color and black, for $746.20 per year. The lease is $110,856. So we see that Goldman's is actually less annually. Yeah, so we just wanted to state that because when they submit the lease, it's just a little misleading because we're not including the copies. So that's what we're going to explain.
Very good. So between the two, I mean, that's small saving, but that's still $78.59 difference between the two vendors. Okay.
Commissioners, if I may chime in, the 908 copies that Ms. Coberty used to come up with the per copy cost, projected per copy cost is actually conservative. Number of copies, because if you look down below that copy of your tape with the blue ink into that next copy usage detail, you'll see that we used 883, 1546, and 1528.19. So 908, my opinion, is conservative. So I think that we'll actually see a larger difference in having taken into consideration the full package, how we accrue the per copy costs.
As always, I'm appreciative of everybody's hard efforts in watching every penny of our taxpayers in this community. So thank you, Ms. Lucero, Ms. Coberly, Mr. Gorman, for doing this. I mean, this is where it comes down to the nuts and bolts of running any business, including economies. Who wants the pennies and dollars take care of themselves? So thank you all.
Any other questions? I'll entertain the motion.
Motion to approve the copy machine lease to Goldman's.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Peters Lopez?
Yes. Section 10, financial matters, consideration of bills and payroll for the first half of June 2022. Finance Director Corbett.
Payroll as of June 15, 2022 is $203,104.35. Do you have any questions on payroll? Bills paid on June 1st, $27,433.73. Nothing out of the ordinary. Bills paid on June 8th, $42,379.65. We did pay $18,950 to Cedar Ridge for the Main Street grant. Bills paid on June 15th, $141,915.57. Dixon alone, we paid 60% of his invoice for $21,000. He's not complete yet. For the canine that Derek spoke about the other day for $10,000, they did get a donation for that. And then the impact study to THK for $19,312.54.
So let me ask you a clarification for $10,000 for the K9. That was a pass-through?
Well, it's a donation.
In a sense, okay. There we
It
go.
is. Revenue came in, we actually received $12,500.
Okay.
They expect $10,000, so I'm not sure they'll probably get something, special for this one.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners, on the financials? I will entertain a motion.
Move for approval of the bills and payments for the first half of June 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess? Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. 10B, information only. Awesome information. I really enjoy that section of our year financials. As of May 2022, Commissioner Director Coleman.
I don't want to get commissioner. I think it's too difficult.
Some basic.
Okay, financials as of May 31st. So as you can see, general fund, right now, we have a profit of $346,000 right now in general fund. Road and Bridge has a loss of $708,975. During budget time, we didn't anticipate use fund balance. I did just transfer $900,000 of PILT, $700,000 of PILT, $200,000 of sales tax for him. That'll help his balance a little bit, but we are trying to get his fund balance down. Because I think as of 2021, he ended with $3.3 million in his fund balance.
And that's a good concept because any time the San Luis County applies for a grant, we were reminded that which is really counterproductive. I'd still like to see, I know counties that have millions and millions of dollars on their fund balance and they're getting grants, but in this particular case, it appears to the grantor that we have way too much money and until we use some of that energy assisted impact grants. I mean, certainly they scrutinize every penny that we have in there. So good and bad, but thank you for reporting that. So PILT, where are we at and what is expected to come hereafter?
For PILT, so we normally receive, let me see. So PILT, we normally receive $800,000 per year or more. We are going to use $100,000 of fund balance to give out the $900,000 because part of that is going to go to airport. Because, yes.
We have a paving project going out there, part of that.
Correct.
And we received a bill last year. Last year, Corey moved to that paving project, to paving for the neighbors. That's already on the way.
So right now, PILT has 1.5 million in PILT, but I will actually transfer 700,000 to Road and Bridge, and the 200,000 is coming from our sales tax. That's general fund.
So when we look at the airport and Road and Bridge, that estimated deficit at the airport, I mean, that's kind of a sore number every time we look at it.
Because, my auditor was like, well, we broke even on airport commission. I was like, no, we transferred 400,000 from general fund. So it was deceiving, but it's just trying to keep it afloat.
We hope to get a little more extra revenue at the airport. The bank is considering buying a plane, so we might get a few gallons of gasoline purchased by you, so appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the fuel prices right now as well. We're trying to stay competitive, but we're also trying to make it to where we can make a small profit. So, but we're watching our neighbors to see what their prices are. Go ahead, Focus, you want to say something?
And since we're talking about fuel out there, a big thank you to Last Director Copeland. She did yeoman's work on the military. We were buying fuel at X dollars, and the military was buying fuel from us at X minus $60. And she got that all ironed out, and now is able to go in there and adjust those numbers, so at least we are
Make
not
the
only
profit.
covering our costs, but making a profit off all the military use of it. It's taken a year longer.
It honestly does, but those little things I think is when new people take over, we just don't know, but eventually you kind of figure out what's going on and why we sound so cheap for what reason. But we did figure that out.
So that deficit is still going to be there, but it won't be as large. Because military, we actually run it off on military fuels instead of those.
Correct, so they're paying full price right now. So, let's see. On contingent, we have probably two, but let's see. Let me tell you what we have in contingent. I'd like to tell you about it. On our, you know, because since my audit is over, I just thought you might want to know what our fund balance is. Our contingent, our fund balance, we ended with $657,000 in our contingent fund balance on that. And then plus our profit this year, so right now we're at $749,000 in our contingent, that's for any emergency. Okay. Capital expenditure, let's see, we have a profit of $371,000 with our fund balance as of 1.2 million. But as you know, that's going to fluctuate because of our project right now that's going on with the windows. And, but I'm trying to get that money to come as quick as possible. Yeah. So, any other questions on any other fund?
The conservation trust, the lottery funds, those are only to be used at the county fairgrounds, correct?
Correct. Correct. Any equipment that is at the county that's purchased with lottery has to stay at the fairgrounds on that. So we have to be careful with that. But we do have, let's see, what is the fund balance of the lottery trust?
For the year.
Fund balance is, as of 21, it was 401,000. That's what we have in there. And with our profit so far, we have 418,000 as of today. In our lottery, to where if there's any projects out there, it's not a lot, but it will be very helpful.
You know, as the board's aware, we've had the University of Colorado Denver do a master plan letter where we're describing for improvements, potential improvements at the fairgrounds. So we're hoping to use these monies to go after local grants and other things.
Match.
Yes.
2 years left here.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Director Corbin. These are really, I enjoy looking at where the county is on year to date and where we are, all the funds year to date as well. So these reports are welcome, especially now that your audit is behind you. That's very appreciated.
And I appreciate it as well, what a difference 6 years makes. 6 years ago, we were trying in our milk of how little funds we had. So good job, staff. Christie, for keeping this boat afloat.
I'd like to also thank you for putting all the balance sheets by us, and I really appreciate that as well. It gives us an in-depth look at where financially the county stands. So thank you so much. That does not need a
I'm sure I've got one more question, sir. On the sales tax, that's
Page 4? That's looking at page 4,
Yes,
the
thank you.
revenues,
the sales tax,
right?
30.82%. That's what we've seen come in.
So you have to see, remember, January and February was both back because that belonged to the state of Colorado sales tax, so it's 2 months in arrears.
Okay.
So we've only got actually March, April, and May.
Okay.
So you have to remember that. So that's why it looks like that. So it won't be 100% until February of next year. Because that was 2 months in arrears.
Makes me feel much better, thank you.
Yeah. I track it.
So with the decline in marijuana sales in the state of Colorado, I know the city's seeing a big impact on it. Are we seeing just as big as impact or not so much?
So if we compare to 2020, we are actually right there with 2020. When we look at 2021, we're about 10% decrease. And we're talking about all marijuana, we're talking about all the sales tax. When I compared it, when I just did it, yeah. But so I don't know if 21 was because of the stimulus we received, maybe we're spending, but if you look at 2020, we're right there with it. The 21, no, we
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other, thank you once again. That pretty much covers these Board of County Commissioners. At this point in time, like immediately, we are going to go into DHS, which the board would like to get a recess.
Make a motion to suspend the Board of County Commissioners meeting this time and enter into the Department of Human Services as a county commissioner back in the capacity with 10-minute recess.
Second the motion.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearsall,
Yes,
Commissioner Luis.
Yes.
we will start this meeting at 11:10. Thank you.